The Mayan crew had been working for weeks on the barren surface of the moon. Their machines dug into rock and dust, searching for ores to send back to Earth. The place was quiet, with nothing but the sound of drills and the endless dark sky. Above, for most of the workers, this was just another contract, another job in the long list of dangerous missions far away from home. Among them was Daniel, a man who never spoke much. He had worked in different mining camps across the colonies. But unlike the others, he paid attention to details others ignored. Where most saw only rock, Daniel often noticed strange shapes, unusual marks, or small signs of something hidden. One day, while checking the diggers, Daniel saw the drill break through into an open space. Dust and debris fell away, revealing a hollow chamber below. The machine stopped, and the foreman called everyone to gather. The opening was too smooth to be natural. The walls inside shone with a faint metallic color, untouched by time. "This isn't part of the rock," Daniel said quietly as he leaned over the edge. The foreman frowned. "Then what is it?" No one had an answer. A ladder was lowered down, and Daniel was one of the first to climb inside. His boots touched the strange floor, and he felt a vibration run through the metal as if it were alive. The chamber stretched out wider than expected, with walls marked by patterns that no one could recognize. They looked like writing, but not from any human language. The rest of the team joined him. Their helmet lights swept across the chamber, revealing pillars carved with sharp precision. The air was heavy and still, as if it had been locked away for centuries. "This is a find," the foreman muttered, his voice mixed with both awe and worry. "We'll have to report it." They sent a message back to the Council on Earth, explaining the discovery. Within hours, orders arrived to secure the site and wait for scientists to be dispatched. The mining crew was not happy. They were workers, not guards. They wanted to finish their contract and leave. But Earth's command made the rules, and this discovery was too important to ignore as the others returned to the surface. Daniel stayed behind, studying the strange marks on the walls. His hand hovered close to the carvings, and though he never touched them, he felt a strange pull in his chest. It was not fear. It was something else, like curiosity mixed with recognition. Though he had never seen such symbols before, when he returned to the surface, night had fallen across the moon. The stars stretched endless and cold, and the dig site glowed under the work lights. Some of the men argued about who might have built the chamber. Some said it was an old alien ruin, abandoned long before humans ever left Earth. Others thought it was a trap or something dangerous. Daniel did not join the debate. He only sat quietly, looking back toward the dark opening. He felt certain that whatever lay inside was not dead. It was waiting. 2 days later, the science team arrived. They came in a sleek shuttle marked with the Earth Council emblem. Men and women in white suits stepped out, carrying scanners and tools. Their leader, Dr. Morgan, was a stern woman with sharp eyes. She shook hands with the foreman, but wasted no time. "Show us the site," she ordered. The miners guided them into the chamber. Lights were placed all around, illuminating every corner. The scientists murmured among themselves as their scanners beeped and clicked. They spoke of energy traces, of structures older than anything recorded, of materials that no human technology could reproduce. At the far end of the chamber, they found a sealed door. It was massive, carved from the same metal as the walls, and covered in the same strange markings. Machines tried to read the symbols, but none of them could translate the language. It resists every system, Dr. Morgan said with frustration, as if it doesn't want to be understood. While the others argued, Daniel walked closer to the door. He felt the same pull as before, stronger this time. He placed his hand against the cool surface, and for a brief moment, the symbols lit up faintly under his palm. The light faded before anyone else noticed. Daniel stepped back, his heart beating fast. He said nothing. That night, as the crew rested in their quarters, Daniel could not sleep. His mind kept returning to the door and the way it had responded to him. He felt like he had touched something alive, something that had been waiting for. Countless years dot above the silent moon. The stars continued their endless watch. But deep below the surface, in the chamber where the air had not moved for ages, the door pulsed faintly with hidden energy. The tomb was not silent anymore. It had noticed him, and it was waiting. The next morning, the chamber was busier than ever. Floodlights lit every corner, and the science team had set up scanners, cameras, and drones. The miners stood back, watching the scientists argue over readings they barely understood. To the miners, the place looked like a grave. To the scientists, it looked like a treasure chest waiting to be unlocked. Daniel stayed quiet as usual. He kept close to the sealed door. Something about it drew him in more than the strange patterns on the walls. He could feel a soft vibration whenever he stood near it, like the low hum of a machine hidden deep inside. He knew he should not say anything, but the memory of the glowing symbols under his hand haunted him. Dr. Morgan walked toward the door, speaking into her recorder. The material resists analysis. No corrosion, no decay. This surface is older than any structure humans have found in space. And yet, it feels preserved. She placed a small scanning device against the door, but the machine shut down instantly. Sparks flew, and the screen went black. "Impossible," she muttered. "This thing rejects everything." The foreman crossed his arms. "Maybe it should stay closed." Morgan shot him a sharp look. "We didn't come all the way here to stare at walls. This is a breakthrough. If this is a tomb, then whatever is inside could rewrite history." Daniel stepped closer. What if it doesn't want to be opened? Everyone turned to look at him. He rarely spoke, so his words carried more weight than he expected. Morgan frowned. "It isn't alive, worker. It's a chamber. We decide what happens here." The scientists tried different tools. Lasers, heat probes, and even sonic drills were tested, but the door refused to move. No crack appeared, no sound echoed. It was as if the door existed outside of time itself. Frustrated, the team decided to scan the rest of the chamber. Drones flew deeper into side passages, and soon they reported back. The chamber was not small. It stretched into a vast hall below, far larger than the mining team had imagined. The group followed the drones down a sloping corridor. The air felt thick and heavy, and every sound carried a strange echo. When their lights shone ahead, they froze. Rows of giant statues lined the hall. They stood tall, carved in shapes both human-like and alien. Each one carried weapons or shields, frozen in a silent stance as if guarding something. Dust should have covered them, but there was none. The air was so still that not even the smallest particle moved. The miners whispered nervously. "Looks like an army waiting to wake up." Daniel walked past them slowly, studying the statues. Each face was different, carved with detail so sharp that it almost seemed alive. Their eyes followed him, or at least it felt that way. At the far end of the hall stood a raised platform. On it rested a crystal structure, clear as glass but glowing faintly from within. It was shaped like a coffin, though larger and more complex. Strange wires and tubes stretched from it into the floor. Inside the crystal, they saw a figure. Everyone froze. It was not a statue. The figure lay perfectly still, wearing armor that shimmered with colors shifting under the light. Its face was hidden by a mask, but its body was whole, untouched by time. The crystal surrounding it looked more like ice than stone, as if it had trapped the being in the middle of a dream. Doctor Morgan's hand shook as she recorded. "We are looking at a preserved body. Perfect stasis. No decay at all. This could be thousands, no, millions of years old. The miners whispered nervously again. Some wanted to leave, but others were too fascinated to move. Daniel stepped closer. His eyes locked on the figure. He felt the pull stronger than ever before. His chest tightened, his mind buzzing with thoughts he couldn't explain. He reached out, his hand hovering near the crystal surface. "Don't touch it," Morgan barked. But before Daniel could decide, something happened. The crystal pulsed faintly with light, as if responding to his presence. Everyone gasped and backed away. The glow spread across the surface, rippling like water. The figure inside shifted slightly, and for the first time in endless years, its eyes opened. A cold light shone from beneath the mask, piercing through the crystal. The air in the chamber seemed to freeze even more, locking everyone in place. Daniel stumbled back, his heart racing. The figure inside turned its head slowly, looking straight at him. Then the crystal cracked with a sharp sound that echoed across the hall. A thin line of light ran through it, spreading wider with each heartbeat. Dr. Morgan whispered, her voice trembling. "It's alive." The miners scrambled for the exit, their fear overwhelming them. But Daniel stood rooted to the spot. He could not move, even if he wanted to. Something deep inside told him that this moment had been waiting for him alone. The crystal coffin split open with a final shatter, and the figure inside drew its first breath in ages. The sound was not human. It was deeper, older, like wind rushing through stone caverns. The tomb had awakened, and it had chosen its witness. The crystal shards scattered across the platform, glowing faintly before fading into dust. The figure inside rose slowly, its armor creaking as though it carried the weight of centuries. The hall, once silent, now seemed alive with the sound of power humming through the walls. The miners cowered near the entrance. Some whispered prayers, others held their tools as if they could defend themselves against this unknown being. Dr. Morgan stood frozen, her recorder shaking in her hand. She wanted to speak, but the words refused to come. Daniel, however, did not move. His eyes were locked on the figure. The pull he had felt since the first day was stronger now, like invisible threads tying him to the being before him. The alien's mask shifted, folding back to reveal a face unlike any they had seen. Its features were sharp, its skin faintly glowing with patterns that seemed to move like rivers of light. Its eyes burned with a pale fire, steady and umblinking. It spoke. The voice echoed through the chamber, deep and melodic, yet harsh at the edges. None of the scientists' translators could process the language. The sound filled the air, rising and falling like a forgotten song. The others shook their heads in confusion, but Daniel caught something. Not the whole meaning, but fragments. He did not know how, but the words formed shapes in his mind. "Who calls me? Who disturbs the silence?" Daniel swallowed hard. We found this place," he whispered. Everyone turned toward him in shock. The alien's eyes locked on Daniel. It tilted its head, studying him. Then it spoke again, the strange language mixing with broken fragments of words that sounded almost human. "You hear me?" Daniel nodded slowly, though fear twisted in his chest. "I think so." Dr. Morgan pushed forward, trying to regain control. "Wait. We are a research team from Earth. We come in peace. Who are you? What is this place?" The alien turned toward her. Its gaze was cold, unreadable. It spoke again, but none of them understood except Daniel. He caught the meaning like a whisper. "Guardian? Protector. Last of my line." Daniel's lips parted. "You're a guardian." The alien's eyes returned to him. A faint sound escaped its throat, something like approval. It placed a hand against the crystal platform, and the entire hall pulsed with energy. Lights raced along the walls, flowing into the statues. For a moment, The miners feared the army of stone would come alive, but instead, the glow faded, leaving only silence. The alien straightened and spoke again. This time, the words were clearer, as if its voice was learning their sounds. Name. Aran. Dr. Morgan whispered the name under her breath. Aaron. Guardian of what? Aaron pointed toward the ground, then toward the hall itself. This tomb, not death place. Time place. Safekeeping. Daniel tried to piece the meaning. Together. You were waiting? Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly, as if testing his understanding. Yes, waiting. Long war. Long silence. Time held still. Last. The miners exchanged uneasy looks. A war? A guardian locked away for centuries? None of this sounded safe, Doctor. Morgan's scientific curiosity burned brighter than her fear. If you were at war, then with who? What kind of technology is this? We need to study everything here. Aaron ignored her questions. Instead, it took a slow step toward Daniel. The others backed away, but Daniel stood his ground, his legs stiff. The Guardian's towering presence was overwhelming, yet there was no hatred in its eyes. You hear me, Aaron said again. The words clearer this time. Others. Do not. Why? Daniel shook his head. I don't know. I just can. The Guardian studied him for a long moment. Then it said, The tune chose you. The words hit Daniel like a weight. He looked around at the others, hoping for an explanation, but no one spoke. Dr. Morgan stepped forward again. Chosen or not, this site belongs to the Earth Council. We'll take control. And, before she could finish, the walls trembled. A low rumble shook the chamber, and the lights on the statues flickered. Aaron turned sharply, its armor glowing with faint energy. Not safe, the Guardian said firmly. Others come. Morgan frowned. Others who? Aaron did not answer. It lifted its hand, and a faint image projected into the air. A map of the stars shimmered above them, lines tracing paths across systems. Red marks flashed closer and closer to their location. Daniel stared at the image. Ships? Aaron nodded. Hunters. They smelled the tomb. They come to take. Fear spread through the miners instantly. If alien raiders were coming, they stood no chance. Their equipment was for digging, not fighting. Dr. Morgan's face turned. Pale. She had dreamed of discoveries, not battles. We need to call for reinforcements. The foreman cursed under his breath. By the time help comes, we'll be dead. The chamber grew colder, heavier, as the truth sank in. Aaron's gaze returned to Daniel. The tomb awakened because of you. Now you must choose, hide or stand. Daniel's mouth went dry. He had never thought of himself as a leader, just another worker doing his job. But the Guardian's words struck deep. If raiders were coming, running might not be an option. The statues around them loomed higher, silent watchers of an ancient secret. The air was thick with the weight of history and the fear of what was to come. And Daniel realized, with growing certainty, that his life had changed the moment he touched the crystal door. The chamber felt heavier after Aaron's warning. The miners stood close together, whispering in fear. Dr. Morgan tried to calm them, but even her voice carried a tremble. Only Daniel kept his eyes on the Guardian, waiting for answers. Aaron stepped down from the platform, its armored boots echoing on the stone floor. The glow in its eyes softened, no longer sharp, but still commanding. It raised one hand and touched the wall beside the crystal platform. The patterns carved there lit up like flowing rivers of light. The entire chamber brightened, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. A hidden doorway opened at the far end of the hall. Cold air rushed out, untouched for ages. The group hesitated, but Aaron walked inside without fear. Come, the Guardian said. You must see. Daniel followed first, Then Dr. Morgan, though her recorder never left her hand. The miners dragged, their feet unhappy to go deeper, but curiosity and fear pushed them forward. The new passage led them into a circular chamber larger than anything they had seen before. At its center was a massive sphere made of the same crystal-like material as the coffin. Strange machinery surrounded it, connected with cables that glowed faintly. Aaron placed a hand on the sphere. The surface lit up, and suddenly the chamber filled with moving images. Stars, galaxies, and battles appeared in the air around them like a living memory. Ships of impossible size clashed in violent light. Worlds burned. Fleets shattered. The humans stared in silence. "This," Aaron said, slowly, struggling with the words, "was my time. War beyond count. We fought to hold balance. We failed." Daniel's eyes moved across the images. Entire civilizations seemed to vanish in seconds. "Who are you fighting?" The Guardian's gaze darkened. "The Devourers. They come, take, leave nothing. We locked them away with time. This tomb is a prison and a vault." Dr. Morgan stepped closer, fascinated. "So this is not just a tomb. It's technology to freeze time itself." Aaron nodded. "Yes, time held still. Knowledge, warriors, weapons, all waiting. But only if chosen one awakens it." Morgan's face lit with excitement. This could change everything. Imagine what humanity could learn from this. We could leap ahead centuries in science. The foreman shook his head. Or we could get killed playing with things we don't understand. Arun ignored their argument. Its attention was on Daniel. "You touch the door. You hear my words. The tomb listens to you. That is why it awoke." Daniel felt a chill. "Why me? I'm just a miner. I don't even understand half of what you're saying." The Guardian's expression softened, almost like a teacher looking at a student. Not rank, not knowledge. The tomb chose spirit. Strength not of machines, but of heart. The miners looked at Daniel with disbelief. To them, he was no leader, just a quiet worker. But the Guardian's words carried weight, and none dared challenge them. The images around them shifted again. This time they saw the tomb itself, hidden under rock, untouched through the ages. Then they saw red marks approaching from space. Arun pointed to them. "The hunters," it said. "Scavengers. They smell old power. If they take tomb, galaxy burns again." Dr. Morgan bit her lip. "If what you're saying is true, this place can't fall into the wrong hands. But humanity isn't ready for this level of power either." Aaron's gaze was steady. "Then, tomb must choose, to sleep again, or to fight with you." Daniel felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. The Guardian looked at him as though he already knew what choice Daniel would make. The miners grew restless. "We should leave before those hunters arrive," one of them said. "Leave?" The foreman snapped. "And let raiders take it?" "If this thing is as dangerous as he says, running will only make things worse." Dr. Morgan stepped forward, her voice firm. "Guardian, if we help you protect the tomb, what do we gain in return?" Aaron's eyes glowed brighter. "Survival, knowledge, a future your kind cannot yet dream, but only if you stand." The room fell silent. Everyone looked to Daniel, waiting for his answer. He wanted to refuse, to say he was no hero, but something inside him would not let the words out. Instead, he asked, "If I say yes, how do we fight?" Arun placed its hand back on the crystal sphere. The chamber filled with new images. Weapons of light, ships powered by energy streams, machines that bent reality itself. Then the vision shifted, showing the statues in the hall outside. For a moment, the stone warriors glowed as though alive. "The tomb holds defenses," Aaron explained, "but only through chosen will they answer." Daniel's breath caught. The statues were not just decorations. They were soldiers, locked in time, waiting to be awakened. A rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. The red marks in the star map drew closer. "They are coming," Aaron said. Daniel looked around at the terrified miners, the eager scientist, and the silent guardian. His voice was low, but steady. "Then I guess we don't have a choice." Aaron bowed its head slightly, a gesture of respect. "So be it. The tomb will stand, with you." The glowing images faded, leaving the chamber in shadow once more. But the weight of the decision lingered. For the first time, Daniel realized that the future of more than his own life rested on his shoulders. The tomb had kept its secrets for ages. Now, those secrets belonged to humanity. The ground shook again, stronger this time. Dust rained from the ceiling as alarms from the scientists' equipment began to scream. The star map had not lied. The hunters were close. Aaron's voice carried through the chamber, calm but sharp. "They have landed," the miners panicked. Some ran toward the exit, but the foreman shouted for them to stay. Dr. Morgan ordered her team to power up their scanners and cameras, desperate to record everything. Daniel stood still, his eyes fixed. "On the Guardian, how many?" Daniel asked. Aaron closed its eyes for a moment, as if listening to something far away. "One ship, 50 warriors. More will follow if they send a signal." The number chilled the miners. They had no weapons, no soldiers. 50 armed raiders could wipe them out with ease. "We can't fight that," the foreman said, his voice tight with fear. Aaron raised a hand. "The tomb fights with us." The Guardian led them back into the Hall of Statues. The towering figures stood silent as ever, but when Aaron touched the wall, the carved patterns lit with bright streams of light. The floor rumbled. The statue's eyes flickered, glowing with the same pale fire that burned in Aaron's gaze. The miners gasped. The stone guardians shifted, their massive bodies moving as if waking from a long sleep. One by one they raised, their weapons ready to defend. "They are bound to the tomb," Aaron explained. "But only through chosen will they strike true." Daniel's heart pounded. "Me?" "Yes," Aaron said. "Your will commands them." Before Daniel could protest, the heavy sound of footsteps echoed from the tunnel above. The raiders had breached the mine entrance. Voices shouted in a harsh alien tongue, followed by the metallic click of weapons. The miners shrank back in terror. Dr. Morgan clutched her recorder to her chest, too afraid to speak. Only Aaron and Daniel stood steady as the noise grew louder. The first raiders appeared in the chamber entrance. They were tall, armored in dark plates, and carried rifles that glowed with energy. Their faces were hidden by masks, but their movements showed no hesitation. They had come for treasure, and nothing would stop them. "Hold," Aaron commanded. The statues froze, waiting. "Daniel, speak your will." Daniel's throat was dry. He had never led men in battle. He had never even held a weapon. But the Guardian's words left no room for doubt. He took a breath and shouted, "Defend the tomb." The statues roared to life. Their weapons blazed with ancient light, firing bolts of energy across the hall. The raiders were caught by surprise. Several fell instantly, their armor shattering under the strike of weapons older than their own race. The rest scattered, taking cover behind pillars and firing back. Blasts of energy struck the walls, leaving scorch marks but no damage. The tombstone seemed unbreakable. The miners cheered weakly, though fear never left their faces. For the first time, they saw Hope. Daniel moved closer to Aaron. "I can feel them, the statues. It's like they're listening to me." "Good," the Guardian said. "Do not fear. Guide them." Daniel raised his voice again. "Push them back." The statues obeyed, advancing slowly but with unstoppable force. Their heavy steps shook the ground. The raiders fired desperately, but the Guardians pressed forward, striking with precision. The hunters began to fall back toward the tunnel, their confidence broken. But just as victory seemed possible, the ground shook again. A massive explosion ripped through the mine above, and a second wave of raiders stormed in. These were larger, their armor stronger, their weapons brighter. They brought elites, Aaron said grimly. The battle raged. The statues clashed with the elites in a storm of light and steel. Daniel shouted commands, his voice hoarse but steady. Each order sent the guardians into coordinated strikes, breaking enemy lines. Still, the raiders were relentless. A blast struck one of the statues, shattering its arm. Another toppled under heavy fire. For the first time, Daniel realized the guardians could fall. "We can't hold them forever," he said. Arun placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we must end it before they call for more." The guardian raised its own weapon, a long staff. That glowed with shifting energy. With a single swing, it released a wave of power to cut through the raiders' front line. The hunters screamed and fell back, leaving scorched marks on the floor. But even Aaron could not fight them all alone. The enemy regrouped quickly, shouting orders and preparing another charge. Dr. Morgan's voice broke through the chaos. "Their leader. If you take out their commander, the rest will retreat." Daniel searched the battlefield. Among the raiders stood a figure taller than the rest, its armor marked with red streaks. It barked commands, and the others obeyed instantly. "There." Daniel pointed. "Take him down." The statues turned at once, focusing their fire on the commander. The raider leader raised a massive shield, blocking much of the attack, but the pressure was too great. Aaron leapt forward, staff in hand, and struck with blinding force. The commander's shield shattered, and a final blast from the statues pierced through its armor. The leader fell. Silence followed. The remaining raiders froze, their confidence shattered. Without their commander, they turned and fled back into the tunnels, their footsteps fading into the distance. The chamber was filled with smoke and the faint glow of broken weapons. Several statues stood cracked and damaged, but most still remained, waiting silently for the next command. The miners collapsed in relief. Some cheered, others wept. Dr. Morgan fell to her knees, overwhelmed by what she had seen. Daniel stood in the center of it all, breathing heavily. His voice was hoarse but strong. We held the tomb. Aaron stepped beside him, its eyes glowing softly. "Yes, but this was only the first wave. More will come." Daniel clenched his fists. He was no soldier, but now he understood. The tomb had chosen him not for who he was, but for who he had to become, and the true battle was only beginning. The silence after the last attack felt heavier than the battle itself. Broken machines and scorch marks filled the tomb's great hall. The air carried the smell of burned metal, but under it all, the humming of the time core grew louder. Daniel stood with Aaron near the glowing chamber at the center of the structure. The walls around them pulsed like a heartbeat, as if the tomb itself was waiting for a decision. The others from the human crew were resting at the edge of the chamber. Some were injured, but they were alive. They whispered among themselves, wondering if they had made a mistake entering this place. None of them could stop staring at the core, a sphere of shifting light that seemed to bend reality with every movement. Aaron spoke softly, her voice carrying the weight of ages. "The core holds the flow of time itself. It can take me back to my own era. If I return, I may change the end of the war that destroyed my people. I could save them." Daniel listened, but he noticed the doubt in her tone. Her glowing eyes reflected the core, but her hands trembled as if she feared touching it. "You said before," Daniel reminded her, "that playing with time is dangerous. What if changing the past changes everything we know now? What if humanity itself is erased?" Her gaze turned toward him, calm but heavy. "That is why I cannot decide alone. This is greater than me. It is greater than you." The choice will shape all life in this galaxy. The rest of the humans watched in silence, knowing the discussion was beyond their reach. Daniel stepped closer to the core. The light shifted, rippling as if it sensed his presence. He felt the pull, like invisible hands urging him forward. What happens if no one chooses? Daniel asked. The tomb will remain open, Aaron explained. Others will come. More raiders, more seekers of power. The cycle will not end. To protect this place, someone must enter the core and bind it. That person becomes its guardian. Their body remains here, locked in stasis, while their mind becomes part of the vault. They will live, but not as before. Daniel frowned. You mean they'll be frozen like you were? Yes, she said. But unlike me, they will never be released, unless the core itself calls them back. It is a prison, yet also a duty. The words sank deep into him. No one else from his crew would volunteer. They were explorers, workers, not chosen guardians. Aaron had already lived centuries in stasis. Asking her to do it again would be cruel. That left him. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Images of his life before the expedition came back: quiet mornings, small jobs, an ordinary life. He had not thought of himself as special. Yet here, in this tomb where time itself waited, he was the one standing at the center. I will do it, Daniel said. The room fell silent. His crewmates stared at him in shock. One of them, a woman named Mayan, spoke quickly. Daniel, no, you don't have to. We can find another way. There is no other way, Daniel said firmly. If we leave it open, someone worse will take it. We cannot risk that. Aaron studied him with an expression that mixed sorrow and respect. You understand the cost, yet you do not hesitate. You remind me of the warriors I once knew, the ones who fought not for themselves but for the future. Daniel forced a small smile. I guess humanity still has some of that left. He stepped into the light of the core. Instantly, the sphere expanded, surrounding him in streams of shifting energy. His body felt weightless. Time stretched and folded around him, showing glimpses of past and future. He saw stars being born, empires rising and falling, battles fought and lost. He saw Arun's people in their final moments, standing tall even as darkness closed in. Voices whispered all around him, but he focused on one thought: protect the future. With that, he let the core pull him in fully. Outside, the others watched as the light grew brighter and then settled. Daniel's form became faint, like a shadow inside the sphere. His body no longer moved, but his presence filled the chamber. The humming grew steady, no longer wild. The tomb sealed itself, closing off entrances and raising barriers of energy. The raiders outside would never enter again. Aaron placed her hand against the barrier, her face solemn. He has bound himself to the core. The tomb now recognizes him as its guardian. Humanity has claimed it. The crew lowered their heads in silence. They knew Daniel had not died, but he was lost to them all the same. Aaron turned to the others. He gave his choice for all of you. Do not let it be wasted. Carry his story. Let others know that humanity stood where ancient power slept and proved worthy. Her voice softened at the end, almost like a prayer. And may his watch never be in vain. The chamber grew calm. The core pulsed once more, as if agreeing. Daniel was gone, yet his spirit remained, woven into the flow of time itself. The tomb was silent again. The great doors had sealed, glowing with new symbols that none of the crew could read. The raiders who once threatened them had already fled, broken by the defenses that Daniel had awakened when he chose to join the core. The air inside felt lighter, as if a storm had passed. Yet the weight in everyone's hearts remained heavy. Marin and the other humans stood near the sealed chamber, staring at the faint shadow of Daniel inside the core. It looked like he was sleeping, frozen in light, but his presence filled the room with calm strength. They could almost hear his voice, urging them not to grieve, but to carry on. Aaron stood closest, her glowing eyes locked on Daniel's figure. She had lived through centuries of silence, trapped in the tomb's prison. Now another had taken that place willingly. Her chest ached with a feeling she had thought lost long ago. "He has become part of the tomb," she said softly. "It will answer to him now, and no one else. For as long as it exists, Daniel will watch over it." Marin whispered, "But he is gone from us." Aaron turned to her. "Yes, but not lost. His spirit is woven into time. Every moment that passes, every star that shines, carries a piece of him. That is more than many ever leave behind." The crew carried their injured and began the long walk back through the winding corridors. The walls no longer shifted or threatened them. Instead, they guided the way with faint trails of light, as if the tomb itself was showing respect to its new guardian. When they reached the surface, the desert sky stretched wide above them. The twin suns glowed warm, but the ground trembled with the hum of the tomb beneath. They knew this place was no longer a ruin. It had become a monument. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Aaron lifted her voice. "Your commander gave himself for all of us. This world, this tomb, is no longer only the relic of my people. It belongs to humanity as well. Guard it. Honor it." For his sake, the crew nodded. Some wiped away tears quietly. They had come seeking answers, perhaps treasure, and instead found a legacy far greater. Days later, they returned to their ship, leaving behind beacons to mark the tomb's location. Messages were sent back to Earth, carrying the tale of Daniel's choice. Leaders argued, scholars debated, but across the world, one truth spread. A human had stood before the flow of time and proven worthy. For Aaron, the choice was not so simple. The Corps could have sent her back to her people's age. She could have tried to change her history, perhaps save her people. Yet Daniel's sacrifice showed her another path. He had chosen the future over the past. When asked what she would do, she answered clearly, "I will not return to what is gone. My duty is here, with you. If Daniel guards the tomb, then I will walk among his people. Humanity must not stand alone before what lies ahead." And so, she traveled with the human crew. Back to Earth, her presence was met with wonder and fear, but also respect. She shared fragments of her ancient knowledge, maps of stars long forgotten, lessons of wars that humanity had never known. But she also listened, learning from human ways, their resilience, their ability to build hope even in the face of despair. Years passed. The tomb remained sealed, untouched by raiders or empires, its guardian watching silently. Stories spread across colonies and starships. Children grew up hearing of Daniel, the man who became the guardian of time. Some called him a hero, others a myth, but all spoke of him with honor. Aaron often returned to the desert world. She would stand before the sealed doors, speaking softly as if Daniel could hear. Perhaps he could. She told him of humanity's progress, of the new ships they built, of the worlds they settled. She told him of peace and of challenges yet to come. And always, she ended with the same words, "We are not wasting your gift." One evening, as the suns dipped low and the desert winds sang, Marin stood beside her. She was older now, her hair silvered, but her eyes still carried the same fire. "You stayed," Marin said. "Even when you could have gone back to your people," Aaron nodded. "Daniel taught me that the past is not where life belongs. The future is where hope lives. And now, the future rests with humanity." Marin placed a hand on the door of the tomb. "Do you think he knows?" Aaron smiled faintly. "Yes, the tomb carries time itself. He sees everything. And I believe he is proud." Above them, the stars began to shine. To both women, they no longer seemed cold or distant. They were the road ahead, the path Daniel had given his life to protect. And so, The tomb remained where time stood still, but the galaxy moved forward. Humanity grew stronger, not because of weapons or conquest, but because one man had chosen to guard the flow of time. His story became a light in the darkness, reminding all who heard it that even in the face of eternity, a single human choice could shape the stars. The legacy of the Guardian lived on, not in silence, but in every heartbeat of the future he had protected.